Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be exploring the Webflow interface. So you should be redirected to this page now, this is the dashboard, the starting dashboard, right? So we're going to hit the new site button, right? And they do look very nice, but most of them are paid. The free ones are also really cool, but for this project we're going to be going with the blank preset. Now you can call it whatever you want to call it, but I'm gonna call it portfolio because that's what I'm gonna be making, right? So I'm gonna hit create site. Now this should bring you to this page, right? There are three main parts of a Webflow website that we're going to be designing, right? This is the left toolbar, this is the canvas, and this is the right toolbar. So I'm going to start with the canvas because that's the easiest to explain, The canvas is where you can basically view your changes. So I'll get to this, what this actually is in a second, but just, like if I drag a block quote in here, right? You can view your changes in here. So in the top left, you can see the add panel, right? So the add panel contains all the elements you want. This is where we're gonna get all our stuff, and this is how we're gonna add things to our web page. Next up, we have the symbols panel. Now the symbols panel, like it says here, lets you reuse content in your design. Not that helpful for us in this website, but you can always check it out later. Then we have the Navigator. Now our Navigator is basically where we can see in kind of a list format how our website is gonna, like the stuff that's inside of it, the content. So if I drag in, for example, a heading into this page, right? And then I drag in a div block, right? You can see that both of these pop up like beside each other, basically, right? They're both part of the body element. They're both children of the body element. That's what you would call them in technical terms. So the heading 1 is a sibling to the div block parent sibling, right? Now, if I was to put the heading inside of the div block by dragging it in here like that, or there's another way to do it, or dragging it like that inside of it. There's multiple ways. You can always use the canvas, or you can drag it into the Navigator. But getting back to my point, right? So then the body becomes a grandparent, the div block becomes parent, and the heading 1 becomes the grandchild or the child. Moving on, we have the pages panel. Now this is pretty self-explanatory. There are pages, with a free account, you can only make 2 pages, right? But Webflow already comes with 2 other pages of the password and the 404 page, and yeah. So you can obviously very easily create a new page here, right? A lot of this stuff you can explore in your free time, but I'm gonna scroll down to the bottom right here. So this is when you start creating more advanced websites, right? Custom code becomes very important because although Webflow has a lot of capabilities, there's still like a bunch of features that can only be accessed with custom code, right? Because it is very useful in creating good-looking websites. Then we have the CMS and the e-commerce page. Now, when you click on the e-commerce page, you're gonna get this little pop-up, right? Just hit cancel. I'll pretty much explain what goes on. So the CMS and the e-commerce panels basically help turn your website into a store. So if you're looking for something like an online store, to sell merchandise for your clients, this is kind of the way to do it. And then this is also one of our most used panels. This is the assets panel, right? So again, what it sounds like. So images, videos, SVGs, lotties, which is something we'll be getting to a little bit later. It's also very easy to organize. Creating folders, all this kind of stuff is very easy. So now, if you move to the right over here, as you can see when you click on your heading, right? All this stuff pops up. This right here is the styles panel. So the styles panel yeah, pretty much does what it says. You know, it's for styles, for changing things, changing the way things look, right? So we're going to get into what margin and padding is later on in the course, and overflow and fit and position and all this stuff, right? But for the purpose of this introduction, I'm going to show you the things you can do. So you can like change the font to a lot of things. Webflow comes with a lot of fonts, but it is also very easy to add fonts, right? For this, I'm gonna choose maybe in Consolata. I said that wrong. In Consolata. Now font weight. This is an interesting name. So font weight is how thick or how bold the font is, right? Now I'll pick something which has more options. Montserrat, one of my favorites, right? So we're gonna basically, as you can see, the boldness increases with each of these. 100 is really thin, 900 is really bold, etc., etc. It's also very, very easy to change the size, right? So 80 pixels, pretty big, you know. The height is, let me demonstrate that. Now, as you can see, this is, you know, pretty cramped. So the height is going to help in like spacing these letters out, you know. So now they have more space, and you can always increase it to how much ever you want, right? Then we have the color. Let's say I want to be really flashy and show off a warning, so I make it red. You know, why would anybody want to do this? I have no idea. But also, if I pick a really bad color, like yellow, like this is really hard to read, right? And Webflow definitely lets you know. That's what I like about Webflow. So we get a contrast ratio. So it tells you whether this is viewable against your background, okay? Now, if I had a darker background, like maybe like a black, Webflow's probably going to tell me it's okay to use. Yeah, see, like there's green. It tells me it's okay to use. But when there's white, you really can't see it that well, right? So again, all these features we're definitely going to get to. You know, borders, border radius, opacity, outline, all this good stuff, right? Now, after this, let's move on. We have the settings panel. Again, I don't think we're going to use this in this course very often either. Like, moving on, we have the classes page. Now, this is a fun one to discuss. So, how things in Webflow work is, or in web development in general, is that everything has a class, or you can give it a class to style it how you want. So, for example, let's say I give something with the, so let's keep the heading class, right? Now, if I make a new one, so right now, I'm using keyboard shortcut, but I'm doing Control-C, Control-V. Let's try that again. I'm going to click here in the Navigator panel, and I'm going to do Control-C, Control-V, right? Now you have two different headings. Let's say that I decide, thank God, to change the color of my text and make it a nice, bold black now, finally, right? Now this is obviously a very good idea, but see how it changes in both the texts, right? So I don't have to do it again to another one when they have the same class. But if I change this, if I give this a different class, like heading 2, for example, right? And then if I decide to change this again, okay, that's what happened. So I gave this a class of heading 2, right? But then it renamed both of them. This is one of my little, I always forget this when I'm using Webflow, but how you have to do is, let me hit Control-Z so you can see what happened. So now, this has the class of heading, and because they have the same class, right, whatever you do to one happens to the other. But if I really want to make this like a different heading, right, what I have to do is I have to hit here, and I have to hit duplicate, right? Now, if I make this a heading 2, right, it's really a heading 2, and you can see that here too, like it says heading and heading 2. Now, these are two different classes, right? Now, if I decide to go back to this lime green, apparently, for no reason, right? Then both of them don't change, right? But I can always go back, I can always remove this class, right? And removing this basically brings it back to the original heading style, you know? Like the original heading style we had when we got it from here, right? Right, going back to our classes panel, right? So now we have two different classes, but let's say that I wanted to change the name of the heading 2 class to heading 3 for whatever reason, right? I can do that very easily, right? It also tells you like the elements. So if you hover on this, it very clearly highlights where that is. It's very helpful. Now then we have the interactions panel, right? The interactions panel is for like different kinds of animations, different kinds of, well, interactions, right? So interactions are triggered, quote unquote, by different things. So for example, let's say that when I hover over this text, right, I wanted to change a color, right? I wanted to change its color. So for example, let's call this hover change text color. Let's do this. So let's, now from here, it gives us a giant array of options, right? But I'm going to pick text color because that's what I want to change. So I'm going to give it a text color. Let's say that I wanted to go to the blue. Why did that not change? There we go. The blue, a blue. This one's, I like this color, right? So now what I can do is I can like measure the duration. So how long do I want it to take to get to the full blue color? So I'm gonna say, 1 second. 1 second sounds pretty good to me. So this is, again, a preview thing. So if I click on this, right, it'll show me it going from the lime green to the blue. I'm gonna make it a little bit longer so you can actually see what's happening. That was a bit quick for me. So see, it's going from the lime green to our shade of blue that we picked. Now, if I hit save, right, and I go into our preview mode, right, and now if I hover over this, watch that same interaction happen. Very cool, very cool. Obviously, there's way more complicated things you can do with hover animations, but this is a good start. I'm gonna delete this now, for now, sorry. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Right, yes, the top bar, because I don't know what else to call it. Here again, this is our pages panel. Pretty much takes us back to the same thing, you know. Again, I just hit the preview button. Sorry, didn't explain that one, but this again just helps you view your page in real time. Now here we have our responsiveness pages. Okay, so this is again a good one to discuss. It's very important. So when we design in any kind of web development, not just Webflow, we design for the desktop, right? So like the default thing is a desktop computer, like a laptop, right? But now with the age of like phones and iPhones and iPads and whatnot, right? It is very important to also design for like smaller screens. And Webflow helps us do that beautifully. So if I, for example, wanted to make this heading, okay, I'll make the heading black when I'm in desktop mode, right? But when I go to tablet mode, which is very easy, you just have to click, right? And it reduces the screen size, right, to what it would be of a tablet, right? Now it's reduced the screen size. So let's say that I say that the color is gonna be a purple. Now, sure, I want to make it a purple, right? Now, when I go back to the heading to the desktop, right, then you can see that it's still black. But when I hit the tablet mode, it's purple. Now, what's also a good thing in Webflow and again in web development in general is that when I change the color for the tablet mode, it goes down to all the other modes underneath it. So before, how it was that I had it as black, right? So all of these breakpoints had it as black. But now that I am designing for tablet, and this is purple, right? So then it cascades down to the mobile landscape and the mobile portrait. So it goes down to both of these, right? So this one also has a blue heading, and this one also has a blue heading. We'll get to how to fix like these weird overflowing issues. Moving on, the undo and the redo buttons. So I'm just going to use the keyboard shortcuts You can always just use these, but I find it simpler and easier to just use the keyboard shortcuts. So I'm going to do Control Z and Control Shift C. Those are the keyboard shortcuts. And basically, this is the icon that indicates whether our Webflow project is saved or not. This is just an indicator. You don't really need to worry about, like saving before you close out the tab or anything. Webflow pretty much takes care of that. Then we have the export code function. I'm going to click on this just to show you guys. So basically, Webflow is still converting all the stuff that all the drag and drop that we're doing, right? All this easier stuff to actual code. Like it's making it into written HTML and written CSS code. So there's it's just we don't see it. We're looking at the visual aspect of it, while Webflow is handling the stuff behind the scenes for it. This, again, is what makes Webflow so powerful. You don't have to worry about actually implementing anything. You just have to worry about the design side of your website, of your company, etc. So, all right, going back to the export code function, right? So here, once it loads, there we go. So we have a div block, right? And we have inside of it a heading 1, these 2 headings that we've made, right? And you can see the classes, right? The classes to define what the content looks like, right? So the classes, the heading and the heading 3, again, all the names that we put in for ourselves, right? Then we have the CSS tab. And the CSS tab is a styling tab, the styling aspect of it, right? Now, if we close this out and if we go back in here, we can see that the changes that we've made, right? So we have the font, the weight of the font, right? The size, the height, the color. Now, if we go back into our export code and then we hit the CSS button, we can see the exact same things being changed, right? So the background color, the font family, the color. The font family is basically the font, right? So the color, the font size, the line height. Line height is the height, font size is size, font weight is weight, and font family is font, right? So very simple. You can very easily switch from doing Webflow to writing code after a little bit of practice, because you already know what most of the properties are called, and you already know what kind of format they're going to be in. It's really easy to switch over, and it's really good. Yep. We have the share project button, right? So you can share read-only links. So there's a lot of community around Webflow. So there's a lot of forums. There's a lot of people working for Webflow, right? And there's so many people always posting in the forums and stuff, right? So if you want to ask for help or anything, right? Even in the comment section of YouTube videos, you see people sharing their read-only links and asking for help from other people, right? Read-only links just makes it so that you don't get to edit the actual project. You just get to, read it or look at it, right? And you can always collaborate with people. If you're a small team, a small company, you can always invite people to collaborate with you. Last but not least, we have the publish thing. So this is like the preview button, but we can actually give this to people, and this is our own website kind. People can view this, and this is actually a website that they can use and interact with and go on different devices with. This is not like a read-only link where it shows up in the Webflow interface. This is like an actual website. Now, with our plan, again, we can't hit custom domain. It literally doesn't allow me to, but it's not really necessary unless you have your own website, or unless you have your own company and you want your brand to be established and don't really want these random numbers after your name. So yeah, we're gonna publish our website multiple times, just to look at it from different to look at it different ways. But I usually finish everything I want to and then hit publish, right? And then we can make small changes as we go and keep publishing. Okay, I think that's it for our little introduction to the Webflow interface, to what it looks like, to what classes are, what responsive means, and this is again a very high level overview. So if you want something more in depth, just keep waiting for that, because we are going to be making a whole website in here. That's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one.